But let's go to the article that John's written behind the paywall, and it's on Donovan Brazier. John and I went out to NCAs last week. Every year, every couple of years, Mark Wetmore, the agent, not the coach, who represents Donovan Brazier, Noah Lyles, Gabby Thomas, a lot of top runners. Sometimes he takes the runners out to Las Vegas, invites members of the media to get to talk to five, six, 10 people all at once, one on one. So I paid for John to go out there for a day or two, and he's spoken to a lot of top pros. So we'll be having more coming out. But the first story that he's written is about Donovan Brazier, and in this story, if you haven't read it, he breaks some news. He writes it more as a profile, but pretty far down, he's reveals that in February, Donovan Brazier had to go back for a third surgery. So let's go back to the I guess Olympic year, right? He broke a bone and had to have surgery to repair that. And my understanding is the first surgery for the bone was pretty serious because we have a supporters club member, I believe, in Michigan. Great fan of Let's Run. This guy is the reason why we have more black shirts in stock. He's a doctor. He loves the shirts, the Let's Run shirts. They're so soft. He wears them all the time. He gives them out as gifts. He says they're conversation starters. But he wanted like 20 more black shirts, and I didn't have them. So I re-upped because of him. So anyways, but when we were talking about the shirts one day, he was very concerned about the initial injury to Donovan Brazier. He said, this is a very serious injury. But Donovan did come back. He did run Worlds. It's a home Worlds. He had a bye to Worlds. And, well, it's kind of interesting when you're reading this profile, like to remember how good Brazier was in 2019. I mean, he won the Worlds, in 142 low? Winning by more than a second, I think, is the largest margin of victory in history. Just dominated the world. But anyways, Brazier comes back, runs Worlds, but goes out with another injury, kind of an Achilles injury, has surgery right after that, but has been still having problems with that. And they went in February to get out the scar tissue. So he's still not running. And it's kind of concerning, right? About what's going on here. Will he ever come back? Will the career end with his best days behind him? And when I think about this, I'm generally kind of the belief of like, well, no, of course his best. I mean, yeah, he may never be as good as 2019 where he dominates the world by a second, but I'm always thinking, oh, medicine can fix everything. And I think that's kind of the idea of the West. I mean, it's like, oh, a pill can fix everything, a surgery can fix everything. Um, the reality is, I guess that's not always true. Like, I was trying to think though, it's normally true. I mean, how many people have like lost their career due to injury at a young age? I can think of one very prominent runner. Can you?
I'm sure there's tons of them, but one prominent runner who's
Well, just name some. I mean,
people usually do come back to some extent, maybe is the point you're trying to make. I'm curious who's your number 1 here?
Gezahang Abera of Ethiopia. People under the age of 35 probably don't remember him, but he won the 2000 Olympics at age 22, won the 2000 Worlds at age 23, and then there's nothing on his World Athletics profile. Oh, won London in 2003 is what in 2003 at age 24, and that's it. DNF at Worlds that year, and no other results.
I mean, injuries probably more at the back end of people's career. Oh, if they end your career, it's the back end of your career, but when you're up there in age, over the age of 30, I think a lot of people at that stage have had injuries where they don't keep going. I mean, Wade Van Niekerk hasn't been the same athlete since he has an injury, but Brazier's 25 only. He turns 26 on tax day. So he's got plenty of time to get this right. The second, what is this? Well, the second surgery in the last year, third surgery overall. It's not a good thing. He has Haglund's deformity or syndrome. I think it's called deformity. And I think that is related to the Achilles injury that he had last year. But better for him to get it all cleaned up. I mean, you can have I got an email today or yesterday, this week about kid with a navicular stress fracture. That's what I had. And he's like, I still have pain. I had residual pain for that for the longest time. And you want to make sure, like, wait, am I just still feeling pain? Am I anxious about this? Or is there still an underlying problem that needs to be fixed? If Brazier's going to take extra time to get this fixed, this is the time to do it. Next year is too late. He will miss the Olympics. I mean, he's already missed one Olympics, and he was a guy really impacted by the Olympics being delayed. They have the Olympics in 2020. He's probably your Olympic champion right now, and you're viewing his career much differently. Instead, they get pushed back a year. He misses last year. He misses the home worlds. I mean, well, he was there, but that was it. And now 2023 looks to be in jeopardy. But all that matters, big picture, is him having a shot in 2024. The 800 is still wide open in my book, despite Emmanuel career winning the last two championships.
It's interesting you calling it wide open because that was when I edited Jonathan's piece. He had this section about when he comes back or if he comes back, the 800 will be different. It was basically kind of saying how slow the times have been. Only one guy's broken 143 and he's been busted, Nigel Amos, etc. And I changed it to give Emmanuel Career more credit. This guy's won the Worlds. He's won the Olympics. He's won the Diamond League final, I think, both years as well. But we came up with the stats. Career's won 6 of his 15 800s the last 2 years. In 2019 and 2020, Jonathan Brazier won 9 of his 11. So much higher win rate. But, one thing that was also struck me about this thing when I was doing the editing process was I've had Achilles surgery myself. So it says that he went in for the third surgery to clean out some scar tissue. And then the next paragraph says, my Achilles is looking great from the initial surgery, said Brazier, by the sounds of it, but that bone back there just isn't quite healing the way it should be. That didn't make sense to me. Like bone and scar tissue are separate things. So I asked John, and John's like, hey, he admitted to me he's not a doctor. This is just his impression of what's going on. So again, I say I don't like it when hosts make it all about themselves, but then I always make it about myself. When I had my surgery, and we should probably text Amal Saxena, same surgeon as for Rupp, because when I bumped into him to the trials, I said, hey, I was like Brazier. I had no idea. I have no idea what surgery he did, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But when I asked Amal Weldon, I ran into him. I'm like, I'm some has-been 223 male marathoner. I said, hey, man, do you have any idea what surgery I was? And he's like, immediately recalled. This is why the guy's so bright. What surgery I had, etc. But when I had it, he's like, don't complain about the pain for 1 year. It may take 1 full year for the pain to go away. And it literally was like 11 months, 4 weeks, and then it stopped hurting. So the fact that they went in isn't that concerning to me. Like maybe they're trying to just speed up that process where it's not painful. But then when he says bone, that made me a little bit nervous. So, the way I view Brazier is kind of the way I view Centrowitz. Centrowitz is like, I don't really care about this year. It's all about next year. Same thing with Brazier. The nice thing is these 800 guys, like, to be honest, this is why Let's Run is not as into the 800 as they are with other events because, for some people it's a long sprint. You don't need that much running to be good at it. Brazier's got sick natural endurance. Like this is a guy running. I mean, how many distance runners running 60, 70, 80, 90 miles a week in high school can break 4:10 in the mile? He was barely running and doing that. So he's got great enough natural endurance to, if he can just run for a few months, he might be able to make the U.S. team this year.
I mean, it's crazy he's talking about making the team this year in my book. But if there's one guy in America who can do it in that little buildup, it's him. So I'm wishing him luck. Another guy coming back from injury, and we'll talk about him first as a segue into the New York City Half Marathon, is Galen Rupp.